Hi, welcome to episode 35, Intro to Harmonic Functions. Harmonic functions, huh? What are those? Well, I'll tell you. I'm just going to tell you what they are, and then we're going to listen to some stuff so you can feel what they feel like. And then we're going to talk about them some more. There's 4 harmonic functions, or maybe 3, depends how you count. But the most full expression of harmonic function has a tonic. Maybe you recognize that word. We've learned that word. That's the word we use to describe scale degree 1, or do. It's also the word we use to describe the Roman numeral 1 chord in a key. The tonic is like the central pitch of a key. And this is related to that. Those things are all things that can express the tonic harmonic function, but so can some other things. So, like I said, we'll get into the details in a little. Then, the next harmonic function is called the predominant function. And you might be able to guess, since it's predominant, guess what comes after the predominant function? That's right, the post-predominant. Most people just call it the dominant. In fact, no one has ever called it the post-predominant except me right now, and I'll never do it again. And then there's another tonic. Some people differentiate the initial tonic and the final tonic as separate functions. It doesn't really matter. They kind of feel the same. And like I said, before I even blabber about them and write stuff down about them, let's listen to them play out in a few different settings. It's hard to think of a more direct expression of how these harmonic functions flow one into the other across a musical phrase than in a lot of classic country music, like this song by Hank Williams. So this is Hank Williams, Your Cheatin' Heart. And check it out. It starts with a tonic when he starts singing. We're in the tonic function. Predominant. Sorry about that. Dominant. Tonic. Again, starting on the tonic. Step into the predominant. Step into the dominant. And then the dominant wants to go back to the tonic. Then something different's going to happen, so I don't want to talk about that yet. Let's listen to another example. This is a country, psych, whatever, country folk rock band Moby Grape. Their song 805. Here it comes again. Tonic to predominant to dominant to tonic. And then it does something different. There's one other I want to play you. If I can find it. I actually don't remember what it's called. Is it just called this? Yeah, it is. This is Summertime Blues. It just does it really fast. All right, it's tonic, predominant, dominant, tonic. That's Eddie Cochran, Summertime Blues. Just want to give you a flavor of how they all feel before I even talk about them. I think it's a kind of thing. Harmonic functions are one of the aspects of music that is most translatable directly to just your feelings. And so that's what I want to talk about first with regards to these. Secretly, half of music theory is actually talking about your feelings. So if you're not comfortable talking about your feelings, you're watching the wrong Patreon. How does tonic feel? Especially this last tonic. Oh, I just feel like it feels like home. It feels safe, right? And so does this one, right? It feels like you're just totally home and safe. It feels like the Shire at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. When, remember like near the beginning of it, it's just this idyllic place. There's very little strife and everyone just likes to eat. There's that guy sticking his finger in his ear and like everyone just kind of loves each other and They're totally content to live in this happy, peaceful place. And, you know, maybe there's like in an alternate universe a version of Lord of the Rings where that's all that happens. Just this tonic, home, safe feeling. Bilbo never goes there and back again. Frodo never has to go destroy the ring, and just tonic. And none of this predominant or dominant-y part of the story happens. And it would be boring as hell. I don't think it's wrong to think of this as like a hero's journey kind of thing. I'm going to stick with this Lord of the Rings metaphor. I like it. So, dominant. Let's go there next. Dominant feels tense. Dominant feels unresolved. And dominant feels directed. What I mean is, when you're feeling the feeling of dominant, it's not just that it's tense and unresolved. It's that in order to relieve the tension and in order to resolve the unresolvedness, you have to go specifically to tonic. It's not just that dominant, you feel like a hole in your life. It's that you feel a tonic-shaped hole in your life. You get what I'm saying? Dominant is motivated, maybe we want to say. Dominant functioning musical things are highly, highly motivated. And in fact, half of music theory, okay, maybe not half, lots of music theory is all about how you resolve dominant things into tonic things. We talk about dominant things as wanting to resolve to tonic. And again, I don't think that metaphor is out of place. It fits how we feel. Predominant function is a little different. It's not tonic anymore, so you're like away from home. There's kind of a we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto feeling to it, right? Dorothy is talking to her dog, and she doesn't know where the hell they are, but they're sure not in Kansas anymore, right? They've entered this whole new world. It's kind of like the point. You can't go back anymore. Once you get to predominant, you don't know where you're going to go. Predominant is not motivated to go to dominant the same way that dominant is motivated to go to tonic. Predominant can just feel, I don't want to say aimless, that's not the feeling at all, but just omnidirectional. You don't know where you're going to go. So that's the feelings of these four functions. I should tell you, people just abbreviate them like this. And these functions are highly connected to what we call a phrase in music. In fact, in music, generally, we say a phrase has one set of functions. You'll find out later it can skip the predominant, and it can even not make it all the way to the tonic and end on a dominant, but it's still a phrase. But we define phrases in terms of them having at least one kind of set of functions, whether it's all four or just two or three of them. And similarly and circularly, we define the functions themselves as making up a phrase. You can't have a phrase without these functions. You can't have these functions unless you're talking about a phrase. They work together. They only make sense with each other. Dominant can't be dominant if it doesn't have a tonic to resolve to. Predominant, shoot, you can't even say it without saying dominant. It doesn't make sense to even talk about and without there being dominant. And tonic, like I said, tonic is kind of the everything, the nothing, the void from which we come and shall return. It's meaningless by itself. It would make the boringest story of all if music didn't have these other functions. So that's their feelings. That's super important. Let's talk about the scale degrees that go with each one of them. So I'm going to use solfege, but if you're a numbers person, tough. Sorry. If you're a numbers person, tough. Scale degrees. Guess what the most tonic-y scale degree is? It's 1. The one that's even named tonic. We also think of 3. Oops, I said I was going to use solfege, not numbers. and then I use numbers. We'll use them both. Do and mi are your most tonic-y notes. They're both part of the tonic triad, and I might as well kind of go in tandem here. Chords. Our 1 chord is the most tonic-y chord, or 1 if we're in a minor key. Okay, dominant T. You would think the most dominant T scale degree would be the one called dominant, but that would be giving music theory too much credit for being consistent. Actually, the dominant scale degree is like equally tonic-y, and it's not all that tonic-y, and it's kind of dominant-y, but it's not all that dominant-y. Except asterisk in the bass. When scale degree 5, that's a 5. I know it looks like a 6. I have bad handwriting. Or sol. When sol is in the bass, it tends to act strongly dominant. In fact, the strongest dominant bass note. We'll get to the differences between how bass voices act and all the other voices act a little more later. I think we kind of talked about it in one of the voice leading videos. But yeah, it's not at all. I put a wavy line in front of it. That means it's not even all that dominant. Actually, the most dominant scale degree is T, scale degree 7. And remember how T is called the leading tone? That really expresses its dominantiness. The leading tone, it doesn't even make sense to call it the leading tone unless you're saying it wants to go to tonic. So T is the most motivated scale degree in any key. You play a T, if your brain is and your heart are in a key and you play that key's T, you're going to want that T to go to do. And like I said, in music theory, we do it all the time. We say the T wants to go to do. We like impute what we want it to do to it. We want the T to resolve to do. And usually that's what we let it do. Another really tonic-y scale degree is 2. The 2 also can go down to the do. The 2 can also go up to a mi. Notice how these are both stepwise to the do. So like you can think of this 2 or re and this 7 as having do surrounded. And similarly, if you take this sol, this bass sol, and surround it with 6 and 4, hey, there you've got your 2 most predominant scale degrees, fa and la. And notice now we have all our scale degrees accounted for. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And this list isn't complete. There's all kinds of times when 2 can be a predominant note. There's times when 6 can be a tonic note. I'm going to put squiggly lines by them. There's times when scale degree 4 can be a dominant note. But the main ones, the ones we most consider exemplifying each function are these. And again with the 1 and 3 here. A lot of that is because of how they fit in chords. So a 1 chord is pretty much the tonic chord, right? We're going to find out later a 3 chord can kind of act tonic-y or in between, sort of. There's kind of this whole post-tonic realm that some people talk about on the way from tonic to predominant. 6 chords can fit in there too. 2 chords and 4 chords are our most common predominant chords. In fact, a 2-6 chord, a 2 chord with its third in the bass, a 2 chord in first inversion, that's easily the most common predominant chord in classical music. 4 is probably the most common predominant chord in pop music. The main dominant chord is your 5, but your little 7 diminished is also dominant. And then tonic is this, but a lot of times it's kind of tricks you, and instead of landing on the tonic-iest tonic chord, a phrase might land on 6 or big 6 or even 4-6. These are all things we call deceptive resolutions. Again, kind of a dumb music theory term. Usually when it happens, it doesn't really sound like it was trying to deceive you, though it can. We should come up with another name for that, but we don't. So anyhow, there you go. That's just your intro to harmonic functions. You got your feelings. You got your scale degrees. You've got your chords. We're going to get deeper into it over the next few episodes. Have a good day.